Okay, so let's get going. Hello, my name is Suzanne Carowin. I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Communications here at NAFA. And today in our Future Leaders series, we're going to really hear direct from a couple of different producers and different people who work in the financial services industry. So we can get a deep dive into actually what they do and understand a day in the life, kind of their backstory, how they got here. Did they wake up one day and say, I want to be in financial services? Did they, kind of ebb and flow along the course and then ended up there? And we're going to hear all about that. And it's probably the best way to understand how broad and how expansive this industry is and how many different facets there are. And if there's one thing I have learned from being a witness to this industry for the last couple of years, is that no one has the same story. And it's just endlessly fascinating to find out how people got into the role, what really motivates them, right? And what are the different kind of areas in which they practice. So with no further ado, let me introduce our panelists. And before I say that, thank you everybody for joining us today. We're delighted to have you on. If you want to go ahead and put in the chat what university or college you're from, we would love to see that. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll just round robin it. So I'm going to first introduce Cheryl Canzanella. So Cheryl, would you go ahead and just introduce yourself and give a little high level overview for you?
Sure. So my name is Cheryl Canzanella, and I am part of the Jacksonville, Florida portion of NAFA, but I'm also in the industry for 22 years and work specifically within brokerage. I attended the University of Palm Beach Atlantic University, go Sailfish for all of you on here. Yeah, I've been in the industry for about 22 years.
Okay, great. So incidentally, prior to this, we were just talking about the weird connections of lacrosse. A young woman in my area just got her scholarship to the Sailfish to go play. There you go, Cheryl. So it's all about connections. That's so much of the financial services of who you know. So now how about I introduce John D. Richardson?
So first, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm John Richardson. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, graduated from the University of Tennessee with a degree in political science with a minor in Spanish. And I never thought in a million years I'd be in this career. Of course, this is my 17th year in the business. I am my title is a comprehensive fee-based financial planner. So folks hire me to put together a plan for them, and then they pay me for my time. And then on the back end, if there's investment solutions or insurance solutions or whatever the case may be, we direct them to the appropriate person. So there you go. All
right, and then Mimie Yoon-Lee, let's wrap up.
Thank you so much. I was figuring out the process of elimination. I'd be the last one to go. Hi, my name is Mimie Yoon-Lee, and I am with Hightower Advisors. I actually just recently shifted from an insurance broker dealer, so a little bit of a different perspective. And just like John, I actually graduated from UC Davis with agricultural economics with an emphasis in managerial economics. It's a mouthful, but it's to say that was the business degree then of UC Davis. And I also minored in Japanese, which if you ask me to speak Japanese here right now, it'd be a little bit of a tough situation, but that is who I am, and happy to be here today. Thanks, Cheryl.
Right.
Thanks.
Awesome. Well, just so happy to have everybody. Feel free the whole time. You can put in chat. We'll take questions at the end as well. But John, why don't we go back to you? You touched a little bit on your backstory and kind of your undergrad education, but can you kind of talk about how did you actually get into what you do now as your full title of fee-based comprehensive planner? And if you want to talk a little bit about that approach and kind of where you're based and what you do, that would be great.
Sure. So one thing I love about NAFA, and my hope is that as you're watching this, at some point in your career, you join NAFA and you get a panelist just like this, and you get to hang out with friendly, familiar faces like us. I'd love to meet you guys in person, but NAFA's always been there because my career has changed over the last 17 years. Fresh out of college, I went to work with a company selling long-term care insurance. And here I was on the phone, smiling, dialing 200, 250 calls a day, which is insane. Did that for about a year, realized that this is not what I want to do. And so I left the industry. I went to work with a guy by the name of Dave Ramsey. If you guys ever listen to Dave on the radio, worked for him for 2 years, part of his live events team. He would put me on a plane, fly me out to a city to host these luncheons and get folks excited about attending live events. But then a part of me wanted to get back into the business. Instead of working for somebody, I wanted to work for myself and create and build something. And so in 2005, sat for my securities license, which is a Series 7 and 66, got my life and health insurance license. So ready to go and started a career. And for 10 years, worked for one company where most of my clients were realtors. That type of work is very transactional in nature because a lot of realtors don't save for retirement. I don't save enough for taxes. And so my job was to come along beside them and encourage them to make wise choices. But then after a while, I wanted to shift into planning. And so I went to work with another company where I learned how to do comprehensive planning to look at the whole picture. And I worked with them for about 4 years. And just recently, in the last almost 3 years, switched from non-fee-based planning to fee-based planning. So now I very much so on the front end tell folks, look, my fees range from $900 to $10,000, depending on the complexity of your situation. They hire me and my team, and we put together an amazing plan, and then we systematically walk through every aspect of their life. And like I said, on the back end, we then determine what appropriate solutions or products. So the great news about NAIFA is that every step of the way, NAIFA had exactly what I needed to grow my business. And it was much like a fraternity. If you're here and you're in college and you're on a fraternity or sorority, there's that camaraderie that comes along with it. So wherever I was in the season of my life, my NAIFA friends were always there for me. And it's been invaluable. So there you go.
So, and for everybody's, so NAIFA is a professional association, which means that we have state chapters and we also have a national committees and a national structure. John's been one of our state presidents. So it's kind of like your professional student council. That's how I kind of think of that. And you can have an entire career through that and then come up through the industry. And it's another way to serve your industry and get involved in politics. Maybe we'll touch on that. So Cheryl, over to you. You mentioned you kind of slid in there that you're in brokerage. Can you actually talk to us about what that means and what do you actually do?
Sure, sir. Brokerage. Well, I'll start off where I got into the industry and how I got to this point in brokerage. I kind of fell into the industry, and I can tell you I was just happy to have a good person hire me and a steady paycheck. But I was a baby when I started. I knew nothing about the industry. I really had no idea what a stock or bond was, but here I am 22 years later. But over the last 10 years, I've had the ability to focus my practice on helping and working directly with advisors. So I'm not actually selling to clients, but I am actually assisting and helping advisors with the sale of life insurance, disability insurance, long-term care insurance, like John mentioned, annuities. I'm helping with their point of sale, sitting down with clients. I'm helping them, the advisors, come up with sales ideas or concept or planning or designing cases so they can help their clients with their financial futures. I feel like just falling into this industry by accident. When I was in school, I didn't get a finance major. I wasn't, I just got a general organizational management degree. And this industry, I think I'm a prime example of how many directions you can take in this industry. Not only did I just fall into it, but I started with, baby steps. I was a marketing coordinator, but I was working for probably one of the largest well-known financial firms on Wall Street, the one with the big bull. But I had an opportunity to work with a few advisors there, marketing products such as annuities, kind of what we call internal sales, again, working with advisors. But that led to the opportunity to work in a role very similar to John, where I was doing some planning with clients, had an opportunity to build a book of business, and also had an opportunity to look, there's compliance or back end part of this industry as well. So I was able to not only obtain securities licenses that are needed to work in sales, that would be Series 6, Series 7, Series 63, but then you have compliance roles and supervisory roles where you have to obtain additional licenses, like I think it's a 53 or the 54, 24, and so on. So I had a chance to actually go from behind the scenes and work from a compliance standpoint, kind of overseeing what advisors are doing. And then also finding young people such as yourself that are interested in this industry and helping them kind of navigate through which direction to take, because there are so many different opportunities, and helping to recruit and bring people on and help them identify the opportunities that fit best with them.
So Mimi, back to you. So you also mentioned a term in there that we hear all the time, but maybe people aren't super familiar with, which is broker dealer. And what is that? And how do how do you fit into this piece? And what do you do each day?
So I'm just going to echo. I wrote down a couple of words as I was hearing both John and Cheryl speak. The fee-based world, in terms of being a comprehensive fee-based planner, that is really what my upbringing was in financial services. But just like Cheryl, I kind of fell into this. Frankly, I was working at the Gap. I was a manager out in the stores and thought I've had enough. And I just happened to mention that to my assistant manager's girlfriend. And she said, guess what? There is an opportunity that just opened up. It's not on the books yet, but let me introduce you. And it turned into an opportunity for me to leverage some of that business degree that I had. But really, real life versus what you learned in school can be a little bit different. And it's great to have the foundation, and so glad to have gone through college. In fact, some days I think I wish I could be a full-time college student forever and ever. I know it sounds crazy, but I love the subject of learning. But what it afforded me was an opportunity to learn. And I grew up as a baby as well in this business, and just really learning what this business is all about, learning what being a broker dealer is all about, an insurance broker dealer, and all the different nuances within the financial services. But my upbringing is all about that comprehensive fee-based financial planning. And it's so important to work with our clients on a very in-depth way. It's building the relationships to really understand our clients and then how that unfold into opportunities. And that's how our advisors build their businesses. And within the last 6 months or so, I just made a shift into a new financial services space called RIA, Registered Investment Advisor. So it's a little bit of it's still in the same vein of working with clients, but it's a little bit of a different structure. So what I'm explaining by saying that to you all is that you may enter in one field within financial services, but can it grow and expand in different ways? John mentioned he started off in long-term care and making 250 calls a day. As miserable as that sounds, it's also a really great way. I bet you, John, if I ask you, you have built your gumption, you built your confidence around talking to people because you had that experience. So one of the other messages I would say that I want to share is that if it feels like it's not a good decision, or like, I don't want to make the right turn instead of the left turn, just know that you'll have a learning opportunity in every experience that you have. And so having said that, let me go back to Suzanne's question as I kind of went off the road there a little bit, but to come back, the broker dealer is about the security side of the business, right? It's about helping your clients with investment portfolios. And I know that a lot of people have a lot of advisors work, especially in that niche. I'm a big believer in working more comprehensively, but the insurance broker dealer side, or the broker dealer side, is really about how you help your clients build a long-term investment portfolio. You might have heard words like stocks and bonds, but there's the world is so much more vast beyond that, and so much more interesting. So just know that there's a lot of things out there to learn in the financial services world.
So I'm going to throw out all our panelists a little bit of a curveball. Hopefully it's not too much, but I know it's a common question that we get. It's a super common question we get from students and out there in the workforce, which is, this seems like an outdated thing. Why do I need one of you, right? Why can't I just go, I've got an app, right? I've got between an app and a nerd wallet. Why can't I do that? I can go get my auto insurance and go get, whatever it is. Is this really going to be a career that I can go into? Is it going by the wayside? Is it going to be archaic? And so what would each of you respond to that if I started with you, Cheryl?
Sure. So, like Mimi mentioned, kind of falling into this industry. I mean, she had a great personality. She developed her passion for this industry. You can learn everything else when it comes along, but I think just this industry is about communication and being face to face, and personalities, and guidance and coaching. There's so much more to it. And I can tell you, I didn't know my true passion when I first got into this industry. I mean, I developed that over time. You don't need to, you should always know what your why is, but, and I'm fueled by my why, but I didn't know what my why was just at the beginning. And that was developed over time and throughout my career. And, being able to make those connections are important. I became a widow at the age of 38 years old, not something that I had planned for, but experiencing that showed me so much more of the importance of the necessity of life insurance, the necessity of locking in insurability at a young age, caregiving to someone that was going through, issues with their health. watching your life savings and earnings become depleted. And just by following an app or looking online for, Googling, that really wasn't going to get me through my life scenario. I found my why when I watched my mom have to fly from Florida to New York to help her sisters care for my grandmother, who was, in the middle of her last stages of life. And I had to learn how to read a long-term care policy and see if they qualified for benefits. And I can tell you, you're not going to Google that online. That came through experience or being able to speak to somebody who has, knowledge like John within, the long-term care industry. Settling in a state. My sister watches, or I'm sorry, she doesn't watch, she cares for as a mother, 4 kids. She's raising 4 kids, and 2 of them, my beautiful nieces, have special needs. It's waking up every day knowing you've got to take care of a child for the last 15 years as a newborn, and being able to have help with special needs and finance, and being able to put the needs of herself and financial needs, and thinking about retirement, because she's not thinking about retirement. She needs guidance and help, and it's not something she's going to find online. So people need our advice, and they have the ability to be coached. And that's one of the great things that allow us to do what we do, because we have passion to be able to do that.
Yeah, I love that. So John, what about you? I know you're a big fan of the coaching aspect too.
Yes, the simple answer is yes, absolutely. In a world where information is at our fingertips, any one of us can go online and Google how to cut your own hair. But I know there's a lot of folks when COVID, we're all in lockdown, tried to cut our own hair, and we all saw the pictures and it didn't look pretty. But having somebody you trust and like on a regular basis, you sit in their chair and they cut your hair so you look good and you look your best, there's a reason why that person's there. There's a reason why, though I know how to change my own oil, because I learned as an Eagle Scout, that's one of the things you learn how to do is change your own oil. I don't change my own oil. I got folks that I trust and like, and they help me with that. Or even better yet, I don't think I'll ever get LASIK surgery. I do like wearing glasses. But imagine if you sit down with somebody and say, hey, I can go online and I've watched these YouTube videos on how to do LASIK surgery. And it's real simple. I mean, all you got to do is could you imagine trying to do LASIK surgery to yourself? Cutting open your eye and doing all that? No, of course not. That's why you hire professionals in that space who know what they're doing, and so that you don't mess up your vision. So what we do is invaluable. The value we add to people's life is to walk beside them, to ask real questions. Where wisdom comes from is knowledge plus experience. And so when you're working with somebody who has real world experience, who's able to cut through the white noise that you can find on Google and get to the matter of, from what I'm hearing, this is what you want to do with your life. Is that right? These are your core values, and this is what's important to you. Well, how can we better align your finances, because money is finite, with what's important to you, so that when you wake up in the future and the older version of yourself is looking back at the younger version of yourself thinking, I'm so glad I made those choices when I did. And there's no regrets, because you've lived every day with intentionality and purpose. And so that's the value that we as professionals in this space get to do. Though you won't find me cutting hair or changing oil or doing LASIK surgery, at least in the area of investments and coaching and helping people plan for their futures. That's what we're professionally trained to do. And the value, that's what we add to our clients' life, is helping them plan for the unexpected events like what Cheryl talked about, as well as hopefully those successful moments when folks get married and have kids, and you get to see their kids go off to college, and they have enough money to pay for the school of their dreams, or helping them retire early, financially independent, retire early. That's a big thing where a lot of clients don't want to wait till 65. They want to do other things when they're in their 50s or 40s. We're able to help people get there to their destinations through proper coaching. So
Mimie, I'd ask the same question to you, and then if you could continue, because you mentioned before, really, and I thought if you could unpack it a little bit more, kind of some of the soft skills, right? Some of the pieces there that you've really developed and you're a master at of what this career has given you.
It's actually a great segue to what I was going to comment on, because what I believe in why we do what we do and why you should consider for the students that are out there is that it is the relationship of the business that we're doing here. It's building those relationships with our clients. It's what John just mentioned, seeing the kids go off to college because you've done the right planning today to provide for that college funding then. And it's an incredible business where, you've got your client to call you to say, hey, I was thinking about doing this. What do you think? You're that phone call. And it's sort of like there's a couple of commercials out there that have done the same thing that has illustrated that. But it's building those relationships, and you just can't Google that kind of stuff. You just can't go online. And frankly, the kind of training and education that we go through, and the continuing education, and to stay on top of what's happening legislatively, who's going to marry all of those different concepts in and distill it down to what you as a client really need. So without our education and background, the client just can't go online and figure out their own solutions. And it's funny, I always used to give an example of me, the dentist, right? So it's much like what John was talking about with the LASIK. I always say, I'm not going to go online and figure out how to fix my own cavity. I want to pay a dentist to take care of that. Similarly, if you're not in the business of being in financial services every single day, and it's your hobby, you may be missing some very important steps. When I think about the coordination of a client's financial situation, a lot of times these assets have been set up with different advisors at different times, different distribution strategies. Well, who's managing all that? If it's you as the client and you're not keeping up with all the different how policies work today, life insurance policies work today, what's happening from a legislative standpoint, you're going to miss the mark, and you might create more of a taxable event in your financial situation. So I guess long story long, there is the point that if you have a passion to help people, and you really, that is the core of what we do. We want to help people, right? We want to see success financially for those clients. We want to see legacy success. And it is about building relationships. You got that personality that you just want to get to know people. I always find that the people are the most successful are the ones who are just naturally curious. Really, you own a business that makes widgets? What kind of widgets? How do you do it? Who do you work with? And all of those questions just naturally become a part of your financial planning and how you work with your clients. So the soft skills to me really kind of go back to just being you, just being authentically you. And I bet you anything between Cheryl and John and Suzanne, even like all of us, we're in this business, but we are naturally curious about each other. John, before we got on this call, mentioned something about what they're doing as a group. I'm like, really? I want to get in on that. How do I know more about that? And like just listening to and talking to people about what they do for what's interesting to them, what was a hobby. Again, going back to the business owner, example, even as an executive, if you're an executive, I want to know what kind of things do you have to deal with? What is your company making, or what does your company do? All of those natural questions will lead to opportunities where you can find, you can be a help to that person. You can be a help to that family, you can be a help to that business. So that to me is the strongest soft skills, but asking questions that aren't closed-ended, like ending with a yes or no, but asking questions that help you expand that dialogue. So instead of saying, do you like blue, or do you like the color blue? The question should be, why do you like the color blue? What kind of feelings does it invoke? And then from there, you can expand and learn a little bit more and find ways that you can be helpful to that family. So that would be those two are the biggest soft skills that I think.
That's awesome. All right, we're going to move to speed round. All right, ready? We're just going to go to each person. Best part of this being, so lifestyle. You're in financial services. Let's talk lifestyle now, right? Between your work balance and everything you do and integrate. Cheryl, best part of being in financial services.
People, by far, the people, the relationships. I have built not just working relationships, but friendships. And I think everyone here, most of the people in our industry, we have each other to lean on and a support group. So it might be overwhelming trying to get in this business, but I think, it's the support and the networking and the friendships.
John, what about you?
So I would say the word is growth for me, both personal growth as well as seeing them grow in their situation. And by the way, we haven't had much action in the chat room, so I'm going to put you guys on the spot. If you could grab a pen and paper and write down 2 books, I'm going to challenge you guys to read. One's Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Talks all about cash flow and how money works. So I read that book years ago, and that put me on the path to being in this industry. Again, poli-sci, Spanish major, who would have thought, so go read that book. Second is anything by Brene Brown, and she talks about authenticity and being real. I believe people have a core value. I have a core value. I believe most people have a core value of being real and authentic, but they just don't know how to. So watching my clients as I interact with them grow and become more real, and be more real with themselves as well as those folks they interact with, and helping people understand how cash actually works and how it comes into your life and where it goes. And our job is to help our clients create assets, which generate passive income, which helps them get out of the rat race to go and live their best lives. So go read those 2 books and help you. Of course, that'll help you personally grow as well as help those folks in your world. So.
All right, Mimie, why don't you bring us on home?
All right. Well, I will say choice. I mean, I agree with what Cheryl and John just said, but I also believe what this career affords you is choice. Choice that if you need to go pick up your kid at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you can stop your workday and go pick up your kid. Then you come back and you want to work if you need to work. You want to take off Fridays. I know so many advisors have built their business to the point where every single Friday they're taking it off. It's a 3-day weekend every day, every week. So I think it affords you a lot of choice. I also think that the journey back to building relationships, and one of the things that I think is so cool, if you're a puzzle solver, if you like to be a puzzle solver, I think this is what also this business does. I love to help uncover, here's the problem, how do we come up with a solution? And I think that one theme that's true for every single person, even everybody here on this call, is that we all have a different relationship with money. And I think that if we can help people understand what their relationship with money is, we can build better success in having them have a financial legacy that they want to build, that they don't have to worry about money, because we're going to help them understand what their relationship with money is and how we get them to what their goals are. So long answer, long.
Fantastic. So that really is I just put in the chat also that every student, we have a partnership with a group called Every Income. So you can use that. It's all sorts of financial planning tools and articles in there, etc. And then the second one was Brene Brown was the author. She does a lot of TED Talks too out there. And then the Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
And Suzanne, if I could add just one thing, I have so much joy talking to students. I've mentored, I've done that a million times in different venues. And I don't know how you can communicate with everybody, but I would love to raise my hand and say, if you got questions, reach out. I'd love to talk to you about your journey through financial services, and also know that just because we're talking about financial services, there's a lot of people who join teams to be on a financial services team. So you can be absolutely a part of that client's solution team, but doesn't have to be just as a financial advisor. You could be the client services manager. You can make sure that you're the glue to making sure that what the advisor does and what the clients need, you're that key person. And that is a very important role. There's so many ways that you can be in financial services and derive a bunch of joy and satisfaction from being in this career. So I want to put that extra point out there.
Thank you so much. So any questions that any of our, not panelists, any of our participants have for our panelists, feel free to chat away. And if not, by the way, the panelists, if you're just listening in and you're kind of using podcast style, all the panelists said they're available in LinkedIn. You can also find all of them on our consumer site, financialsecurity.org, under Find an Advisor. So Cheryl Canzanella, John D. Richardson, Mimie Yoon-Lee. And so we're delighted that everyone joined us today. We look forward to our next segment of Future Leaders in about a week. Thank you, everyone. Take care.